Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. What do we got today, Rick?
We got our Week 5 starts and sits.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
I feel like I've been looking a little scraggly lately.
Does that have anything to do with the fantasy season?
No, well, I got a haircut. I think right as the season started, and I won 2 games. I was feeling good, and then all of a sudden I started losing.
Welcome to the club.
So yeah, what are you 1-3?
In our home league, yeah, and every other.
See,
league.
now just think about this. You are 1 win off me right now.
Yeah.
So you're 1-3. I'm 2-2, but your team is far worse off than my team. It just doesn't matter in fantasy.
Worse, but it's definitely not as good.
You know what it is? It's the running backs that have destroyed me. Killed my hopes and dreams.
Well, no, the running backs have destroyed me because I had Saquon Barkley.
That's true. I think running back. You know what I realized today? Running backs are destroying everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. At this point, there's like I was looking at it on what was it, Tuesday, and the running back position right now in a half PPR league, there are about 3 running backs. 4 running backs that I'm happy with on a week-to-week basis starting. Kamara, Jones, Cook, Elliott. And maybe you can throw Chris Carson into that conversation. But after that, like the top 4 guys right now, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott. Kamara is averaging 28 points a game. Jones is averaging 23. Cook is averaging 22. Elliott is averaging 19. And then Carson's averaging 18. Everyone else is averaging 17 or under. James Robinson's averaging 17. Do you know who's number 7, averaging 16 points per game? Kareem Hunt, who's the backup running back. So I feel like no one is doing good with running backs right now. Like literally nobody.
Yeah.
So I feel like I just got to wait with Miles Sanders, Jonathan Taylor.
With Chubb and Austin Eckler both going on IR, which, by the way, in a dynasty league that I'm in, I have both those guys.
GG. Which one?
You're not in that one, but I have. It's the one I have Mahomes and Dak Prescott. It's Superflex leagues.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna win, I think, but
it's been gross. I think it's more like, I don't know, Jonathan Taylor, and I have Jonathan Taylor and Miles Sanders. I wish I had Clyde, but I don't know that it would have been any different.
Yeah.
So
it would have been a little bit.
Unless you own one of those 4 guys, I feel like you're just in trouble at this point.
Yeah, or you feel like you're in trouble.
You feel like you're in trouble. Just be patient at this point. Wait till week 8.
Yeah.
I think it's the increasing the increasing love of the RBBC.
Yeah.
People just love that RBBC.
Unfortunately.
Quite an intro to the show. That was way longer than 30 seconds. But we got some stuff to get into in this episode. We are going to do our starts and sits for week 5. I was in the wrong show notes. That would have been a disaster. Or week 5 starts and sits. Before we do that, check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at @TheFFChamps, on Instagram at @TheFantasyChampions. You can like us at facebook.com/TheFantasyChampions. If you're listening on any podcasting platform, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, smash the subscribe button, get us to 1,000 subscribers. At some point.
That'd be awesome.
That would be my favorite day. We should do something ridiculously stupid when we reach 1,000. That's
something really stupid.
Something really stupid. Fun. Get us there.
Down.
You can shave my head.
If
we get to 1,000 before the end of this season, you can physically shave my entire head.
Okay. I'm down.
Or I could shave yours. Whose life is on the line?
Better because I have longer hair.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd do it.
Yeah. So get us to 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. Let's jump right into you can also comment down below. I don't know if I said that already. Comment with any questions for starts and sits for the week.
Oh, yeah.
You can also check out, we never mentioned this, but we have a TikTok. Rick does a great job managing our TikTok content because I would never know what to do with TikTok.
Yeah, go follow us.
I'm like a big time, like not big time, but I'm a content creator, graphic designer, photographer, videographer. I do all that stuff, right?
You got everything.
I just could never I don't know if it's me turning old, but I feel like I could just never like think about TikTok in a way that people do.
I think you're just old, dude.
Probably. Let's jump right into our week 5 starts and sits. There are some weird ones on here. There are some.
Yep. You made this whole list.
I did. I took the time out of my day to make this list.
We usually do it before the show, and I open the show.
And it takes us 2.5 hours of arguing over which player. And I just said, frick this. I'm just going to do it.
Well, no arguments here.
He's like, I don't have to do any work.
Exactly.
So let's start with the quarterback position for week 1. And we're going to start with Teddy Bridgewater at Atlanta. Did we have Bridgewater on this list last week?
We did not. No, I don't think we've ever had Teddy Bridgewater on any list.
I don't think we've had Teddy Bridgewater on any list. Yeah, Bridgewater, I think personally the reason why I put him on this list is specifically because Atlanta, if they didn't score a lot of points on Sunday Night Football, at least Monday Night Football, if I can remember right. I stopped watching because I lost. And then I was like,
Atlanta?
frick this. Yeah.
No, they scored 16 points.
Yeah, so they didn't have a good week. But usually when Atlanta plays a friendly defensive matchup like Carolina, it'll lead to a pretty high-scoring affair. And Atlanta sucks defensively. They're horrible.
The worst in the league.
And right now they're giving up 33 fantasy points a game. They lead the league in fantasy points given up per game through the first 4 weeks of the season. So going into week 5, Bridgewater's not going to score 30. I doubt it. But he's had one or two good weeks. Don't quote me on it. I'm going to pull up the numbers right now for week 4.
This past week against Arizona.
What was it, 20 something?
Yeah,
I just don't want to get it
our league,
wrong.
so our touchdown system is different.
He had 27. He was the QB4.
So
Yeah, I just pulled it up so we wouldn't mess with our 5-point touchdown system.
which I would have changed for the world.
Yeah. But anyway, Bridgewater was the QB4 last week. Now this game is during the day on Sunday, correct?
Yes.
This is not on Thursday night because I do this every time with quarterbacks and then it doesn't turn out too good for me. But anyway, Bridgewater, you can start against Atlanta.
Yeah. You made all the good points.
Of course I did.
Atlanta blows. Shut up. Atlanta blows on defense. So Carolina should put up a lot of points. That game should be high scoring. Yeah. Teddy Bridgewater had a good week last week against Arizona. He should have a good week against Atlanta. Now, Atlanta has played some good quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers all let him up. But Nick Foles also let them up too. Playing in a half of football. I think he scored like 18 points. Fantasy points, something like that. And playing in a single half. And after the week that Teddy Bridgewater just had, I think if you're streaming quarterbacks this week, you can look at that matchup and justifiably Teddy Bridgewater and put him in your lineups.
I thoroughly agree. I think Atlanta just blows.
Yeah.
Atlanta leads in the quarterback category. They are, I think, top 10 against running backs in terms of fantasy points given up.
They should be 2-2 though. Unfortunately, they're not. But
they choked twice.
They're the kings of choke.
Yeah. Our quarterback started this sit of the week. I don't know if you agree with this, Rick. I'm kind of interested to hear your take, but it's Tom Brady, Thursday Night Football against Chicago. He has literally not only the fact that Chicago has given up only 12 fantasy points per game to the quarterback position this year so far in the first 4 weeks, but also the fact that Brady is going to be playing this game without Godwin again. Mike Evans is questionable. Scotty Miller is questionable. They just lost O.J. Howard for the season. So there is a reasonable scenario where Brady goes into this game without his 2 top wide receivers and the other guy that he's fallen in love with. Like, the main receiver would be Justin Watson for this week on Thursday Night Football. And Gronk would be like, Gronk's going to get targeted 12 times. If you want to start Gronk, you can.
I don't know about that. I think Evans is going to play. They're going to hold him out of practice. I think he's going to end up playing.
Okay.
From what I saw, and I think same thing with Scotty Miller.
All right.
Justin Watson was actually ruled out. So
is he ruled out?
I think so. I saw something.
I couldn't keep up with it.
I just saw a notification that said Justin Watson earlier.
It's those sleeper noties.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, Justin Watson ruled out for Thursday Night Football, so he's out.
Yeah.
But I think Scotty Miller and Mike Evans might play. They're listed as questionable.
Right.
But yeah, no, if he's out with all those, if all those weapons are out, then I 100% agree with you because the Bears do have a very good defense. They haven't really played, like, how many points did they give up to Matt Ryan? Week 3. Actually, they shut down Matt Ryan pretty well. So yeah, they've shut down Matt Ryan and Matt Stafford. Stafford had an okay week, but like Phillip Rivers didn't do anything against them. Daniel Jones didn't do anything against them. I don't think Brady's going to be terrible, but definitely if you have better options, you should go with those options. It's a Thursday night game. Unfortunately, we know too well that quarterbacks tend to struggle on Thursday night for the most part, especially if they have like favorable matchups or like you expect them to do good. They always almost doing bad for some reason. I don't know why, but so he's got that going against him. He's got the receivers going against him, and he's playing against a tough defense in Chicago. So Brady's definitely not somebody I'm trying to start this week if I have better options. Those options.
It's interesting. Chicago's defense actually has been pretty good this year.
Yeah, it's not as good as it was like 2 years ago, but it's still like top 10.
Like I feel like last year they got a little bit worse, even though they were still one of the best defenses. But
yeah,
they were a little bit easier. But this year they've been very good, at least against quarterbacks. And Brady has been relatively inconsistent on a week-to-week basis so far. There are weeks where he's very good and weeks where he's just not. So if you're relying on him on a week-to-week basis, you probably shouldn't be. There are going to be weeks where Brady has good matchups, but you're also hitting that point in the year where Brady starts to decline a little bit, as does Drew Brees. You know what I mean? Just the age. What'd you say?
Are we in the Brady and decline show?
Yeah, totally. No, but it's traditional that the older quarterbacks I should say, I'm going to say the word traditionally like 16 times, but older quarterbacks normally start falling apart after the midway point in the season. Not that they're going to do bad in the playoffs or that they have bad games consecutively for 8 straight weeks, but they just don't produce as well as they do in the first 5 to 7 weeks of the season. So you don't have a lot of games left with Brady to have success. But I think that he is definitely a good streaming option against a good matchup. But against the Bears on Thursday Night Football with no weapons, I would definitely say I'm all set. If he scores over 25 fantasy points, I'd be stunned.
Yeah, I would be too. I'm not gonna lie.
Like I'd make a public apology.
I think he could get 20.
Yeah.
I don't know about 25 though.
Yeah, 20 might be okay. That is, see, the problem is that's the high end. That's the like, oh, he could probably hit 20, but then you're like sitting there going, all right, if that's where he is, that's where you're like, okay, maybe he hits 20 and you're hoping. And so that's not a very good situation to put yourself in.
No.
But anyway, yeah, and Bridgewater is probably on your waiver wire. So if you want to go, would you start Bridgewater over Brady?
I have that dilemma in our own league. I haven't decided yet. But I think you would, right?
Yeah, I'd do it. I'd take the risk. It is what it is. I feel like I do this with quarterbacks all the time, but this is the best streaming option of the week. So
it is. I do think Bridgewater will do very good. So if you want to go in that direction, you can. I still haven't decided yet, though.
Running back start of the week is Jerick McKinnon / Raheem Mostert. Here's my thing is I'm a little bit hesitant on the Mostert part because if Mostert plays, I have a feeling that they're going to put him on some sort of a snap count. Am I wrong on that?
No.
So it's a good matchup against Miami. You know,
it's a great matchup.
I think McKinnon, I feel like McKinnon's going to get a majority of the work, but even when McKinnon wasn't getting a majority of the work, like I think this week was the first week that he had like a 90% snap percentage.
Yep.
Or somewhere around that 70 to 90%. I want to look it up just to give you the actual numbers.
He had a much higher snap percentage than he did.
Yeah,
last week.
the first couple weeks of him taking over for Mostert, he didn't really have that great of a snap percentage. So week 2, when he took over fully for Mostert, he was at 62%, and this week he was at 92%. He still only had 14 rushes in either one of those games, but even the games where he wasn't getting a lot of opportunity, that's for sure. He scored 13 fantasy points on 4 total attempts, or 4 total opportunities, I should say, in week 2. But he's been getting some opportunity, and I think he's earned a role in this offense. Like would you rather have Jerick McKinnon or Tevin Coleman at this point?
McKinnon.
Yeah. So I feel like even if Mostert comes back, McKinnon will get work. And against Miami, who's given up, I don't know how many.
A lot.
Yeah, I was going to say they've given up 24.6 fantasy points a game in half PPR to the running back position. So, and that's number 8th worst, I believe. So I would definitely, or number 7th worst. Number 7th worst. Numbers what?
Get your stats right, bro. Come on.
Number 7th worst. I couldn't even say it. Instead of number 8th. Sorry. But Miami still blows defensively, so you can get him. You can get him out there and be okay with it. But if Mostert comes back and they don't limit him at all, I would not have a big issue with Mostert. Did you really just drop Ryan Tannehill?
I did. You want to pick him up?
Low key.
Yeah.
Waivers, friggin' waivers. Anyway.
With McKinnon, I think it depends with Mostert, like you said. Assuming that he doesn't play, McKinnon's a fantastic start. If he gets 90% of the snap share again against Miami, struggles defensively. And the 49ers are a great run-first team, especially a great run-first team on offense.
Right.
And Miami struggles against the run. McKinnon will have a good week. He'll have a fantastic week. And just like the past 2 weeks, you can be comfortable starting him in your lineup again. He'll be a great start. If Mostert does play, I think, and if I had Mostert, I would still start him. Even if he ends up being limited, the amount of times that the 49ers run the football, I think both guys can get enough work where they could both be starts. Yeah.
I don't, like I said, I don't.
Against Miami.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Let's talk about our running back sit of the week. Running into the same game, I guess. We're running into this game, I think, twice.
Are we?
Yeah, twice. So on the opposite side of the field, Miami has a running back named Myles Gaskin,
who's been solid this year.
Very solid. About 10 fantasy points a game, I think. I can pull up the averages if you want me to. But
he's been a good flex.
He's been relatively decent on a per game basis so far this year. Definitely a good flex, but I feel like there are certain weeks where you can start. I feel like this is a point in the season where people start feeling like they're comfortable with starting a guy like Gaskin. You know what I mean? And the hard part is the reason why these starts and sit shows become more important between weeks 5 and 13 is because of the bye weeks. You're going to run into situations where Gaskin is going to be available and you're going to have to start him, or Jerick McKinnon, you're going to have to start. You know what I mean? Or even like one of our other wide receiver, or tight end starts and sits. So those guys are going to have to be started in place of maybe a guy that you have on a bye week. So it's important to make the right start and sit decisions, especially when you hit the bye weeks. And I feel like if you do have Gaskin in your line, on your team, you shouldn't be starting him this particular week just because he's playing San Francisco. And I've watched the San Francisco games, and me and you both thought that San Francisco was going to not be able to stop the run as effectively without, is it Nick Bosa? Is that correct?
Yeah, Nick Bosa.
Yeah, so we thought they weren't going to be able to stop the run as effectively without Nick Bosa. But I'll tell you, I've watched them the last couple weeks, and they don't look like they missed a beat stopping the run. So they've only right now they're the best team in the league at stopping running backs in terms of fantasy points allowed. 10 fantasy points a game to the running back position total, and that's to the entire position, everyone running the football. So if Gaskin comes into this game, I would not be surprised in the least if he only scores like maybe 5 or 6, maybe if at best 7 fantasy points. And I feel like you can find better options out there than Myles Gaskin at this point.
Yeah. See, the thing with Gaskin for me for this week, I think he does have a floor though, just because of his receiving work. Especially if they go down early, he could end up getting like 5-6 catches in this game. Although I don't know about that much, but he'll get enough catches where in half PPR he'll get a few fantasy points. But I think his ceiling is also limited against that great San Francisco defense. So I agree with you that I think he's probably in line for like a 7-8 point week, which is just not something that you want if you have better options at the running back position, which you probably do. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not great either.
Yeah. I don't know. I have him in like several leagues, but I have him in like this extremely deep dynasty league.
Yeah.
And I have no starters. So.
Well, I mean, you don't.
I have to start him there.
Yeah. But if you have a choice, I wouldn't start him.
Yeah. I would choose not to start Gaskin at this point, especially 10 fantasy points a game to the running back position is just disgusting.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
That's walking into a bad situation. I think the other part of it too, you did say they did have a floor. I believe this is the week, either this week or next week, but I haven't read any reports on Jimmy G coming back yet.
I think he was limited in practice on Wednesday.
Okay.
Last time I checked. So I think he's going to play this week.
My thought process is that if he does play, San Francisco is going to be probably ahead in this game early, and that Miami's going to have to play catch up for the most of the game, which means Myles Gaskin's not really going to be able to run a lot. But like you said, he's got that floor with the pass catching ability. And when they do turn to, or when they're getting shut down, they generally turn to their tight end, Mike Gesicki and Myles Gaskin. So it could be good, but I don't know. He might get 6 catches, but he'll probably get like 20 yards.
I don't think he's going to be doing anything on the ground either.
Yeah, so I would definitely sit Gaskin. Quickly through the wide receivers and the tight ends, we have wide receiver Justin Jefferson at Seattle. Seattle has just been porous, giving up wide. It gets worse every single week. I feel like I talk on this show about fantasy points allowed. You can go to, Fantasy Pros, not sponsored, but fantasypros.com and go into NFL, go to the research tab. And I think under reports, you can find fantasy points allowed. Go check that. It's totally free too. Just go check that out. But anyway, every week, Seattle's wide receiver fantasy points per game given up has gone through the roof. 41.6 fantasy points per game given up to the wide receiver position.
That's ridiculous.
And that's in half PPR. That's not PPR, my friends. That's disgusting. Right. Justin Jefferson has been nothing short of spectacular in the last couple weeks. Not spectacular, but he's been good. He's been efficient. Me and Rick both had a feeling that he was going to be the I don't want to say AJ Brown, but the potential breakout wide receiver this year for the rookie, for a rookie that has a really great season. In the last 2 weeks, he has 27 and 12. And the big difference, the catalyst behind that is his 78 and 77 stat percentage in the last 2 weeks, whereas he had 54 and 69 in the first 2 weeks of the season. So he's getting more targets. He's getting more opportunity on the field. I think in a matchup against the Seattle Seahawks where a lot of fantasy points are given up and really there only being 2 guys in that backfield, two guys in that receiver core that get not only targeted, but really pick up the large amount of fantasy points. I could see Justin Jefferson definitely putting together a 12 to 15 fantasy point week. And if you have him on your bench and you need a replacement for a bye week, I would slot him in really quickly and feel good about it.
Yeah, I love Justin Jefferson. You know that. Before the season, like you said, we both kind of thought he was going to be the rookie wide receiver to get. But he started off the season not starting. Yeah. Which with Minnesota is really difficult because they usually run those 2 tight end, 2 receiver sets, and just kind of run the football.
Right.
So when he wasn't starting, I think that's why his snap percentage was kind of low. But ever since week 3, when I think it was Gary Kubiak, the offense coordinator, said that they needed to get him more involved. Yeah. And boom, 27 fantasy points and half PPR. So he's been good last few weeks. And against Seattle, man, that secondary is just not good. Jamal Adams is fantastic, but everybody else, and he's more of like the kind of run stopper as well, safety. He's like very physical,
right?
But and he's good in the passing game, but I don't think that's where his strengths are. So that's their best player in the secondary. So that secondary is not good, and it's shown through the first 4 weeks. And they got torched by Miami, the Miami wide receivers. So that just shows you, and Miami's not bad by any means. Like Devontae Parker's a beast. Yeah. But I think if Parker can get 10 catches for 110 yards, I think it's possible that Justin Jefferson can have like 5-6 catches for 100 yards again.
Fair enough. Wide receiver sit of the week, Odell Beckham Jr. This one is a little bit hot considering that you might have a bye week and you probably can't sit Beckham.
Right.
He is coming off a 3-touchdown week.
He was our start of the week last week.
And he was our start of the week last week. And now we're saying sit Odell. He's playing Indy, and Indy has been very good so far this year. Whether you're talking about stopping the run, stopping the pass, whatever it may be, they're only giving up 20 fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position at this point, which essentially is only 4 points off the Chiefs, who are giving up 16 fantasy points per game. So when you talk about the rank for them and how well they're able to stop the pass and, you know, just how effective have they been so far this year as a defense, I would say Odell Beckham. I was going to say Jarvis Landry, but I feel like no one is going to even think about starting him. And I really do think in this game, it's going to be a game where, you know, I feel like it's going to be going back and forth. But you remember how Baker has some of those trash games and Odell gets like 10 targets and catches 2 passes. I feel like that's going to be what's happening this week versus Indy, but it could go sideways too. But I feel like this is where I have to say don't start Odell, because I think a lot of people are going to run out after his big week and say, oh my God, I got to start him because he's, you know, he had a big week. There's a team in our league that owns him, and he's on his bench, and I think he let him have the 39 points or whatever he had on the bench. He didn't start him. And so I feel like people who didn't start him this week, or who did start him, whatever it was, are going to look at those 39 points and say, I got to start him. But against Indianapolis, it's going to be, if you need a start desperately, then I wouldn't mind putting Odell in the lineup. But if you have options and you can sit Odell, then I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, this one definitely could backfire on us, but I 100% agree with you. I do also feel like this is...
Listen to that. It could definitely backfire on us.
But I'm confident.
So when you come back and roast us,
I am confident though that I think Odell's going to have a great week this week against a very good Colts defense that, as you said, has shut down wide receivers this season.
Yeah.
Minnesota played the Colts earlier this year. Adam Thielen had 3 catches. Justin Jefferson had 3 catches. That was partly because Kirk Cousins blew in that game, but it had a little bit to do with the Colts defense. And even they were shutting down Allen Robinson for most of that game.
Right.
This past week against the Bears.
Right.
But I think it was a fourth quarter touchdown that kind of helped his game.
Right.
Ended up making a good fantasy week. But if it wasn't for that, they were doing a pretty good job defending Allen Robinson. So they've done very good against teams' top wide receivers this year. And Odell hasn't had more than 5 catches in a game this season.
Right.
So that like those two things with Odell's, even in the games that he's done good, it's because he's been efficient. So if he's not efficient against a good defense, it just doesn't seem like a good recipe. Now, granted, you might not have a ton of choices because, like you said, the bye weeks and injuries. And if you have Odell, you're probably starting him week to week. But if you have a better option, go with that option.
Sounds good. Final wide tight end position. Really quickly, Hunter Henry against New Orleans. We talked about New Orleans last week being a porous. Actually, we talked about, I think it was either New Orleans or Atlanta. Either one. Both of them have been terrible against tight ends this year, giving up 16 and 18 points respectively. If I actually, Atlanta is playing Carolina, so I thought about doing Ian Thomas as a start. He had 7 points last week on like 5 targets or whatever. And I feel like this particular week he's going to have, he's going to get funneled, but I feel like it's just more risky. If you don't have anything on your waiver wire and Ian Thomas is there, that's your best option. I would pick him up because it's your best bet at a really good game. But if you do have another option on the waiver wire, which is Hunter Henry, he's not going to be on your waiver wire. But if you're nervous about starting Hunter Henry, I would definitely start him this week against New Orleans. 16 fantasy points a game given up to the tight end position so far this year. So I feel like he could definitely have a really good week. I don't know how much he's been targeted as of late with Justin Herbert in the lineup.
It's mixed. I don't know who's starting though this week. I have no idea. It's good.
That's true. Very true. He had 8, 8, 7, and 4 the last couple weeks. So against New Orleans, I feel like he's going to be worked into the game plan pretty heavily. You're probably starting him anyway, but if you have him in your roster, I would slide him into your starting lineup if you haven't already.
Yeah, I agree. New Orleans just is for some reason they're a good defense, but they struggle with tight ends. And Hunter Henry's due for a good week.
Yeah, and then finally the sit of the week at tight end for us is Austin Hooper. Tell us why, Rick.
Similar to Odell, the Colts have a very good defense.
One fantasy point a game.
One fantasy point a game, 2 tight ends, which is just insane. A lot of people started Jimmy Graham last week because they were hyped about his previous week, and then the Colts shut him down. And the Colts have shut down every tight end they've played. Austin Hooper has struggled anyway this year. He had it okay last week because he caught a touchdown. But don't get fooled. Don't start Austin Hooper this week.
Sounds Gucci. I was going to pick him up and start him, and then I put a waiver claim in on him, and somebody else got him. I love on Sleeper that you can see who bids on who, though. That's clutch. So I was pissed because I was like, I didn't get him, and then I was doing my research for the show today, and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't get him. I forgot who I picked up, though. But anyway, that'll do it for our starts and sits for week 5. Wow. We are flying. 11 weeks to go, friends, until your fantasy championships, and you take the dub. Don't forget to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Tomorrow we get the news show, so be sure to check it out on Friday. See you later, Fantasy Champs.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.